video's playing.
Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Adobe Live. And I'm here today with our good friend Ian Haigh. Now we did another session on Tuesday, and on Tuesday's session that was about After Effects, and we did a couple of really cool things in there. We built a motion graphics template, or a MOGIT, if you will. So if you want to have a look at that that session itself, I think we'll pop a link in the chat so that you can have a look at that if you haven't seen it already. My name is Chris Hansen. I'm a senior solutions consultant at Adobe in Sydney, Australia. So for wherever you are around the world, I'd like to say hello and welcome. It's great to have you here. But yes, today we have Ian Haigh, and he's going to take us through a couple of things. I'm just checking my notes here. We're going to be looking at some multicam sequencing. We're going to have a look at our motion graphics template from the previous episode and see how that transfers into Premiere Pro today. And then we're going to have a look at a couple of things in the Essential Sound panel. But yeah, Ian, how are you? Welcome.
Good morning. I'm well, thank you. Thanks for having me back, and hi to everyone who's joined us. If you've come from last week, then welcome back from last Tuesday, in fact. And today, like Chris says, yeah, we're looking at some Premiere stuff. So we'll bring in the MOGIT template that we made the other day and see how that works within Premiere. I've got some multicam bits and pieces, some tricks to share with you. And also one thing that we didn't cover in last year's session when I was talking about Premiere is sound. And so we're going to look at some of how you can use the Essential Sound panel to make your audio sound better. Also how to grab Adobe stock music and drop that in, and audio ducking, how to automate that process, which is effectively when the music goes quiet so that you can hear a speaker and then comes back up again when there's no audio. So it's an incredibly powerful and very, very easy way to get your audio sounding amazing. And if there's time after all of that, then it would be great to look at the new transcription feature in the latest version of Premiere Pro as well. So there's quite a bit to get through. I'll jump in.
Yeah, the transcription feature is extremely powerful, and I'm really excited that we've released that. So if we have some time, it'd be great to see it for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so here we are in Premiere Pro. I've got a few clips that I've taken. You're going to have to forgive me for using myself, but I thought that would be easier than making someone else appear in this tutorial. So these ones
thought we'd have some food ready to go, Ian.
I'm going to see if I can drop some food references in for you today. But in this, first of all, we have, I'll show you just how to set up a multi-camera clip. So multi-camera, in case no one is, if anyone's unfamiliar with what that means, is when you've shot the same thing with two different cameras. Now, that gives you a lot more flexibility in editing because you can switch between cameras and hide edits. It also makes it visually more interesting as well because you don't necessarily have to look at one angle all the time. So multi-camera is very, very useful. You don't need fancy cameras or anything like that. You can do it with your phone. And the important thing to know is how to synchronize those cameras. So in this instance, I used two cameras which are quite similar. One was a Sony A7S on that angle, and one was a Sony A7S Mark II on a different angle. So they were shot at the press record at roughly the same time. And in order to get them synchronized, I just clapped like this.
Yeah.
And what I've done here is I went through and using the left and right keys, I just basically waited until exactly the moment where they clapped. And then I dropped a marker, and you can see that green marker on the timeline. So I did that on one angle, and then I did it on another angle here. And in this instance, I was using, you can sort of see if I go over here, you can see that's an amusing angle. So I was using an external microphone as well. So if you're using an external microphone, then you also need to synchronize the audio. So if I go by double clicking the audio file there, so there's no picture at all. If we zoom in a bit, you can see that there's actually, it's really clear where that, it's a little bit obscured by the marker at the moment.
Oh,
you can see that's the clap. So if I
so we're looking at the waveform. Oh yeah, we're looking at the waveform here of the audio from the microphone.
Yeah, so that's showing us, it's showing us what the actual kind of, that's me speaking.
Yeah, there you go.
And so because that clap is it's a unique looking part of the audio, so it's very easy to sort of see, okay, that's where it is. So if I come in here, use my left and right keys until I get to exactly the right place. You can also turn on audio scrubbing as well, which I don't know where it is in the menu again, but it's Shift S. If I turn that on, and then I can, when I go left and right, it'll play as I'm going left and right as well, or as you're dragging the playhead around. You can. So once you've got it at exactly the right place, you drop your marker in. So now all three of these clips, that one's got a marker, the audio's got a marker, and this one's got a marker. And I was just dropping that in by pressing the M key, M for marker. If I select all three of those now, Shift click, and then I right click on it and go create multi-camera source sequence.
Okay. In
this instance, there's a whole bunch of different ways that you can synchronize these three clips so that they're all lined up perfectly. If you're using a sophisticated camera arrangement, then you can have them automatically recording their own time code, which for a big production, if you're shooting a television commercial, for example, or a film, you might use something like that. Sound time code is another way of doing that. In this instance, we want to use clip marker. If you didn't do your clap, then you can still synchronize them by using the audio of all three of them. And that way it'll look at the audio waveform for all of the clips that you're synchronizing and try and move them around so that the audio syncs up perfectly. But in this instance, we've dropped in a marker, so I can just say clip marker, and I'll just leave everything else on the default.
I was going to ask you before you click OK. Yep. Cool. The audio, instead of the clip marker, the audio bit that you just mentioned in terms of synchronizing the audio up, and it finds it the best as it could. Have you ever tried that approach? Is it fairly accurate?
It can be very accurate, and that's often what I would use. And particularly if you've got a ton of different clips, it's incredibly convenient to just drag them all into your project, select them all, hit sync, and just sync them by audio, and let the computer do all of the hard work, so that you just let it figure out all of the waveforms for you. It kind of depends on what you're wanting to do. I like doing it by clip marker using that clap, or if you are on a real production, then you use a clapper board, one of those ones that goes at the top. And I like that just because I know that it's going to be really accurate. But otherwise, audio is also a perfectly legitimate way to put it together, and either works really well. So as you can see, there's a ton of different ways to do it. Yeah. So once you've got everything, all of your ducks in a row, and you hit OK, it only took 2 seconds because it didn't have to, well, less than 1 second, because it didn't have to look at the audio waveform, and it's dropped a multi-camera sequence into my bin here. So if I make a brand new timeline, I'll call it brand new timeline, like that. And if I drop that, this is the new one here, I'll put these other ones, just going to drag them to the bin icon here, just to get them out of the way.
A new bin, Yep.
And so there's my brand new timeline. If I drop this one that's just been created onto the timeline, it does appear as one. So there are 3 clips in here. So
so it's kind of like it's nested them.
It's like it's nested them. If I go into here, and again, it's another one of those moments where I don't know how to do it with the menus. I've set up a keyboard shortcut, but if I open that sequence up, that nested sequence, you can see here all of those markers are lined up perfectly, and that's where I clap. So it's basically, it's moved them all so that they're in sequence. You'll notice it's automatically figured out that that's the main audio track, because that was the one by itself. So it's muted the audio that was on the camera. And if I have a little zoom in on that, you can see that the audio waveform for the external audio recorder looks much healthier. It's got more information in there than these two cameras. So that's what you might run into difficulty synchronizing by audio if one camera is quite far away or if it's a noisy environment. And that's where it can be really helpful to use that clap, because then you get a visual representation of the sync point as well as an oral representation, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So can I ask you, if you don't have two camera angles, let's just say you've only shot with one camera and you've got audio from a microphone, could you still use the multicam sequence the same way? And
that is an excellent question.
Yeah,
that's a brilliant question. So here's one way that you might want to do that. So in that instance, imagine that we didn't have this angle. I'm just going to delete that completely. So I've only got this profile angle, and I happen to know that this the source footage here is shot in 4K, and say we wanted to deliver it at a lower resolution, like a 1080p timeline. So I'm going to change the sequence settings in here, right click and go sequence settings. I'll just make this into a 1920 by 1080. And again, I must apologize for using this footage of myself. It's really weird to.
No, you've got yourself at a really good angle there. I really like that. Very prime ministerial angle, if you will.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I was going for something prime ministerial or presidential for our American viewers.
We could do, yeah.
So what I've done here is I've just scaled that one down. So I made the sequence smaller. I've scaled it down to fit. And now if I option drag, I made a copy of that. And now I could zoom in on it, say I'm going to make it 90%. And now, even though it's the same footage, one of them is punched in, one of them is at a higher resolution, if you like. So you could also have, let's make another angle so that I've got.
So pretty much you're manipulating as if you have shot it on multi different cameras.
Correct. So you've got like you're not confined to using it in a traditional sense. You can mix it and match it however you like. So in this instance, I've just called up the Lumetri color panel here. So I've made, this is our base angle, this is one that was scaled, and now I can make one that's scaled and put a grade on it. So I could make it, give it a say one of these black and white ones like that. So now when I go back into the brand new timeline, I can, if I right click on that, or actually if I double click that, here are the three angles that we've set up manually. So there's the default punched in black and white, and then I can switch between those just by, I can go Control-1, Control-2, Control-3, and that's going to put in cuts between those different angles in the timeline. Or I can just double click up here as well to, or no, I can't. Sorry, I just have to double click up there, and then now I can switch between them.
So,
like
so wherever are you saying wherever the playhead is on the timeline, when you double click up in the multicam, up here, it'll then select that camera for that.
Correct.
Shot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's as long as you've got this little auto track targeting thing turned on.
Yeah.
So it'll automatically it'll choose if it's V1, then I can just double tap up here and it ought to. Well, now it's not working. Okay, but yeah, effectively that's the way that you do it. It's working now. So I think it's I don't want to get too bogged down on it, but yeah, what you're saying is right, but it's I double clicked on that one, and so you've got different angles that you can choose from up there. But returning to the original question, this is one way. Oh, this is really unflattering, guys. Sorry about that. But it's even worse.
Morning, everyone.
Yeah,
Wherever you are.
Super embarrassing. So one thing that it's worth knowing is that you can also do the same thing with your music, which is one trick that I want to come back to a little bit later on and show you how you can switch between different soundtracks using this technique as well. So the multi-camera technique, or the technology that is in Premiere, is very powerful, and you can get a little bit creative with it and use it in a way that perhaps you hadn't initially thought was possible.
No, that's really powerful.
Yeah, it's good stuff. It's exciting. It's exciting and new. So moving along to the essential sound demo. So here's a hilarious, and when I say hilarious, I mean kind of bad timeline that I have set up for you here, a contrived example. So I've got different angles here. I've just cut it together. I've put in some transitions, and here's our title from last week. So this was the MOGRT that we created. And just as a little recap, if I wanted to chuck a brand new one on there, I'd go to the Essential Graphics panel. It was called Premiere Demo. So if I search for demo, you can see this is the one that we created. And what I need to do is...
So for those that tuned into our session 2 days ago, we created an After Effects motion graphics template. This is what Ian is showing now. For those that haven't seen this, we obviously will have the link provided for the first session. So yeah, if you haven't seen it, go ahead and check it out, but continue in. Check
it out, yes. And I've made a couple of little improvements on it as well, so that now it fades the... It's got an overlay at the back, which I can choose how much I want that to. We can edit the text in here. This is where I'm going to bring in the fruit, guys. Banana.
So you've got the motion graphics template selected on the timeline, and it's showing you in the essential graphics what you have access to. There you go with your banana pancakes.
Correct.
What you have access to that you were given from After Effects. Yeah.
So all of these properties are the ones that we made editable in After Effects using Essential Graphics, and we added those as editable properties. We gave them labels so that they would make sense, so that when we change the settings on one, so I'll make that banana sort of colored-ish, banana color sort of like, there we go, it's more lemony, so that we can go around and make all of these changes. And you can even put comments in there as well. Thanks for using my template. So there's a whole bunch of like power in the Essential Graphics panel. And also importantly, you can just drag change the duration of that, and all of the animation respects the new duration as well. So you can just drag that out, and it will still animate in and out correctly.
So there's no like extra keyframing that needs to be done. It just honors that the animation that's already pre-built into it.
Exactly, and so that was when we had a look at that the other day. So just as a quick reminder, one of the really powerful things about MOGRTs is that you can say, I want. We're back in After Effects now. This blue part up here in the time ruler is protected, and this part down here is protected as well, so that when you change the duration of your MOGRT on the Premiere timeline, these two parts don't change in the duration, and so the animation stays at the same speed. It doesn't get compressed or stretched out. So it means that you've got a ton of flexibility, whether you're using these MOGRTs for yourself or whether you're giving them to someone else to use.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Now, we've just had a question come through. How often would you create your own template in After Effects rather than using templates already in Premiere?
I would almost always create my own templates, and that's specifically because most of the time I'm doing work for a particular client or a particular brand, and so I need to adhere to their brand guidelines and to their kind of corporate style, if you like. So
of course.
whether that's, you know, their color palette or their visual language or their font, and so then it's quite straightforward for me to whip something up. And if you're not doing that, if you're doing something for yourself, then there's a huge number of sort of built-in templates and assets that you can grab from that Essential Graphics panel.
Now, I've got a question. You can build Premiere motion graphics templates, right? You can build them in Premiere.
I believe you're right, but I have not ever had. I would use After Effects for that purpose. But yeah, I think you're right.
My question would be, when would you use one or the other? And I think the answer to that would be you have a lot more access to animation and other parameters and properties within After Effects that allows you to build more, dynamic motion graphics templates that you can then pull through into Premiere.
I think you're exactly right. So with After Effects is from the ground up an animation environment. So you've got a lot of control over, with the curve editor, the graph editor, you've got a whole bunch of effects and also expressions in there so that you can wire it up however you like. So I think, if you were going to do something that didn't require all of that power and you're comfortable in the Premiere environment, then you could just stay there and achieve a lot of what you needed to do. But if you need that extra edge, then go into After Effects and get pressing buttons. So here we are. So we've had a look at this. There's me sitting down and clapping, contrived example. We've got some filters, we've got put a bit of a look on there and so on. So this is our timeline. And you will see that we've got our audio down here. This is me speaking, and the rest of it is no sound at all. So what we'd want to do here is bring in some audio to make it a bit more appealing and feel a bit more complete and watchable. And what I want to introduce you to here is the Essential Sound panel. There's a lot of power here in this little panel. So first of all, let's have a look at how we can brighten up my audio. So nothing has been done to this yet. It was recorded on a good device, and so the audio is already reasonably clean, but you can always improve it, like with adjusting the levels of volume and so on, reducing background noise. So what I'll do first of all is select these 3 clips just by dragging over them. I'll go to the Edit tab on the Essential Sound panel, which you can just find under Window up here if it's not already on. And right now, before you've done anything, it'll look like this. So the first thing you need to do is assign a tag, and that helps Premiere understand what type of audio it is and therefore what you want to do with it. So in this instance, I'll just say it's dialogue, and it comes up with a whole bunch of settings related to dialogue. And then I can choose a preset. So balanced male voice. I mean, I'd like to think that I'm a balanced male. Choose that one. And it's already, you can see by the waveform in here, it's already sort of done a whole lot to it. So
they're preset dialogue, pieces that you can just choose. But then you can obviously get a little bit deeper, can't you?
Yeah, exactly. So if you're in a bit of a hurry or you're not interested in sort of getting into it anymore, you can just choose a preset, and that's going to do a whole bunch for you already. Or if I'm going to clear the audio type and just delete any of the audio settings that are on there, I will go set the dialogue type. Loudness is a really good one. If I just click auto match, then that's going to automatically bring up again, live demos. Amazing. Auto match.
It's okay. It brings up the waveform to match them equally.
Yeah, exactly. And so what might not be it just took my computer a second to think about it. So I've just flattened those multi-camera clips into might make it slightly faster. But you can see the difference there is that before they weren't this loud, and so it's automatically made them. It's automatically given them the right levels for audio. So before and after, if I play it now,
I also have this camera over here.
And then if I hit auto match and loudness, and again, my computer's just taking a little second. So I'll flatten that multi-camera sequence and press it one more time.
While you're doing that, we've got a question that's coming through. Has Ian ever done any editing on the phone, or has it always been in After Effects and Premiere?
I have done editing on the phone, yeah. There's, I can't remember what it's called. Adobe make a really great little portable phone editor, which is really powerful.
You're talking about Rush?
Yeah, Rush.
Premiere Rush, yeah.
Premiere Rush, yes, it's fantastic. And I've used that when I've just shot, when I've been away from my computer and I've just put together a little video, and it's got a ton of, it's actually really intuitive to use and has a ton of features and, you know, built-ins as well. So built-in titles, built-in sort of music and so on. So you can actually set up a really great little edit from on the road or hotel room or wherever you are.
Yeah, it's really good if you've got a tablet device. You can do I do rough cuts on that device using Rush, and then once I come to my desktop, I can actually open that project in Premiere Pro from Rush, which is fantastic. Then I can do even further edits from there. But we digress. We're not talking about Rush today. It's about Premiere.
Yeah, but it's a great question, and it's something that it's very handy to know, particularly that I hadn't thought to get the sort of, I mean, it's well named as well, but to get the rushes, have a rough cut in on your device, whether it's a tablet or a phone, and then keep editing in Premiere for the fine tune.
Definitely.
Okay, so here we go. I've put the auto match on there for the loudness,
And I also have this camera over here.
So if you weren't getting enough of my voice before, you can hear it even louder now. And then you can also bring in here, so you've got if there was noise in the background, if there was a hum from an electrical frequency, for example, de-essing, which is when certain voices and microphone setups will really emphasize that sound, so you can turn that on. There's
so Premiere can pick up those little intricacies.
Yeah, you can do a lot from just right here within Premiere. So, and as you can see, it's kind of all in one place. It's very easy to see what you want. And it's really just if you set up just so that you've got a small segment.
And hold on, what did you just do there? Because it looks like you've set an in and out point. Is that what you've done?
Oh yeah, so I moved this. Sorry, this is all kind of automatic. So I moved my playhead over one of the clips, and then I typed the X key, which just sets an in and out point over one little part. And then
that means you can hone in on that particular clip, right?
Yeah, exactly. So that then if I can then just by typing it's option / no, it's option K. I beg your pardon.
This camera
option K
here
just plays between the in and out point.
This camera over here.
So if you were going to just keep testing, for example, and now I have to just see whether again loop is not showing up there. Sequence, playback. I think it's Command Option L, perhaps.
I think loop's in your program monitor.
This camera over here.
Yeah, it's on the program monitor, isn't it?
Yeah. Should be in there somewhere.
Unless I've already sort of messed with it, is that their loop playback?
There it is, yeah.
So I'll drop that down there and then turn on loop and hit Option K, and now it's just going to play.
And I also have this camera over here, and I also
so when that's selected,
this camera over here, and I also
can play around with
this camera over here, and I also
in real time, and
this camera over here, and I also have.
I'll stop subjecting you to that, but you can set up loop, set up just a small segment, keep it playing, and then fiddle around with the settings over here and get it sounding exactly how you like. So there's a lot going on over here in the essential sound, and
so
that's one of the tabs.
I was just going to ask
There's a whole nother tab.
I was just going to ask you, so let's say you're happy with the edits and the adjustments you've made on that particular clip.
Yep.
How then do I get it to go on other pieces of audio?
Another great question. So if I select that clip and hit copy, or make it really visual, copy there, and now I select these clips. I'm holding down, looks like I don't need to, but if it was selecting both of those, if those were linked like that, I can just hold down the Option key or the Alt key on Windows, and it'll only select the audio, not the video as well.
Ah, so you don't even have to unlink them.
No, just hold down the Option or Alt key and then drag over, or Shift or Command click or Control click. So if I now going to go paste attributes, which if I'm not mistaken is here, paste attributes. So first of all, I'll go remove attributes, make sure that, so it's already got some, that's from the Essential Sound. Get rid of that. So we're setting it back to 0. I'll go edit, paste attributes, and we've got everything turned on. All of my fiddling around is in there.
On the first clip, which is great.
On the first clip, hit OK. And now so before and after, if I go undo, you can see it's brought in these additional filters, and you can see when the little FX, when that changes color, then
it's applied it.
When it's yellow, there's nothing on it, and when it's green, it's got filters put on it. So we can see that those all should sound identical now.
Awesome.
Yeah,
that's really handy.
So now that I sound fabulous, I'm going to go to the Essential Sound panel, and we'll go back to the other tab, Browse. And we've got Adobe Stock up here. So there's a whole lot of music that we can use in our project. Let's start with corporate uplifting. Who doesn't love a bit of corporate uplifting? If I just click on it.
When you're grading.
Now it started playing from where I clicked it. So right now, timeline sync at the bottom down here is on. So from the point where I place the playhead, I can click into the timeline, and it's going to synchronize up with.
And you can watch in real time your video at the same time as the music you're trying to choose.
Exactly. So if I was like, okay, corporate uplifting, I'm not feeling so corporate today, I go into moods, I can choose angry. I'm not feeling angry, but let's just say, for instance, we wanted to try that out. And so then it's just a matter of clicking. We can just click.
And I also have
this
camera over here.
Ooh.
That's working. I'm feeling that.
Yeah.
My best interview ever, because
that's quite dramatic. So why don't we use that? So I'm just going to drag Action Industrial Hybrid trailer.
Okay.
And I'm just going to drag it straight onto my timeline, and
have a look at what's in there. Scary, dramatic, electronic, film, rock. I'm feeling all of those emotions.
Right.
Yeah.
We've got it all, industrial and film. So there's obviously a ton of stuff. And just as a little aside, I just expanded that whole panel. I've made my screen quite low resolution just for the purposes of this demonstration. If you are on a small screen, or if you need a little bit more real estate for a panel, then just hover over the panel in question with your cursor and hit the back tick, which is on my keyboard, it's just under the escape key, top left. So back tick, just that little.
Is that the tilde? Is it called the tilde one, the little curve? Yeah, it's
the same key. So there's a tilde, and then underneath it is the back tick.
Back tick.
And then if you, and by hovering over different panels, you can expand that. So incredibly handy, particularly if you're working on timeline with tons of video layers, tons of audio layers, and you need a bit more real estate to be able to punch in on it. Okay. So here we are. We've got our Action Industrial Hybrid trailer music. I'm just going to crop it to the end here. So I'll just hovering over there with my timeline in the right place. I'm going to press the W key, which is just going to trim the end off that. And then when I play it back, I'm like, actually timed quite nicely to that clap. I don't know if you could see that.
And you did that intentionally, of course.
It's all planned, nothing is left to chance. And when I keep playing,
and I also have this camera over here.
So currently the music, which sounds amazing and is giving this little film snippet exactly the tension, the high stakes tension that it needs. But what would be great is if the volume ducked down when I started talking. So in the olden days, there were a couple of ways of doing it. One way that I like doing it was just to put cuts into the music and then bring down the volume like that, and then put in transitions between them. So we're going to do it like this.
And I also have this camera over here.
But that is very manual, and the longer the timeline and the more of those that you need to put in, the more painful that is, particularly when you start making edits. So if I hit undo, and we get back to where we were, now we have the essential sound ducking. So we'll go back to the edit tab, and I'm going to assign a music tag while this is selected. Now
I was just going to say,
yeah,
the previous ways of that you just showed of doing that, if changes are made throughout the video, you know, in the Ian's amazing trip trailer, if you needed to cut some bits out, then you'd have to manually go and fix that, which is obviously time consuming and, you know, very painstaking.
Very, very painstaking. Yeah. And it's like there are sort of, I kind of evolved ways to make it quicker, but it's still not as much fun as doing it automatically. So that's just where the ducking thing comes in really handy. So as you can see, we've got, here's all of our dialogue, which has been tagged as dialogue, and we've brightened it up and we've made it sound amazing. And here's our music on a different audio layer. So I've tagged that as music, and now we have ducking. If I turn that on over here, it's asking me to duck against. So you can, it's looking at whatever else in your timeline has been tagged, whether it's music or sound effects or ambience. And then we have these controls here. We're just going to use the defaults for the time being. And what I want you to watch is this line here, which is an indication of the volume right now. So if I generate keyframes, it has a look through, it thinks about it, and it's automatically dropped in keyframes. So it's dropping the volume before the audio starts, before the dialogue starts, and then it brings it back up again, and it's just automatically drop those in. So if we play it back now, you can hear the difference.
And I also have this camera over here.
So
that's very good.
Ducking at the click of a button, it's incredible. And then so if the client sort of says, okay, I want, you know, it's going a little bit too quiet, I would rather hear more of the music and less of your voice, I'll be like, okay, fine, I suppose I understand. I can change the duck amount here. So we could say duck it to -8 instead of -18. And then this is how fast we want it to fade in and out. So
you can adjust that as well. That's great.
Yeah. So once I click generate keyframes, you'll see, I'll just zoom in a little bit for you. So right now that the line between these 2 points is quite shallow. So it means it's taking a little while to get from low volume to high volume. If now that I've changed the fades into something a lot faster, 218 milliseconds to be precise, and then press generate keyframes, you can see now it's really fast. So it'll fade out quickly and it'll fade up quickly.
And I also have this camera over here. I'll do my best.
So for such a high octane trailer, I prefer this version here. So yeah, very, very powerful, very quick and easy and convenient. It means that you can concentrate on the edit rather than faffing about with ducking.
That's awesome. That's really good.
Yeah.
Would you be able to show an example if you had to remove a piece of footage?
Yep.
And then how the ducking then regenerates. You can regenerate the keyframes from that.
For sure. So say you're the client and you've just said, all right, look, I love it. It just goes on a bit long. Like,
make it shorter.
I suppose you're right. Yes. Okay, fine. I'm just going to drag over those, delete those. What I'll do is I'm just going to copy one of these cool transitions first so I can paste it back in. Okay. Going to delete that. I'm just going to drag over there, move it back up. I've got snapping turned on, so it butts up against, it automatically shows me when I'm butting up against the next clip. Awesome. I'm going to click in between here and paste my transition back on, which was that sweet light leaks effect. And all of the keyframes are, as you will have anticipated, in their original positions, which is not what we want. So because the settings are all the same, I just have to drag over or click on the music again. All of this is identical, and then hit generate keyframes and
it just adjusts. That's it.
That's all you need to do.
Okay.
And then the final, the icing on the cake is I'm just going to go into the effects palette and drag. I've typed in expo because I know that I'm looking for exponential fade, and I'm just going to drag that down onto the end here. And so that's not using keyframes, it's just an effect, but it means that it'll fade out the music at the end so that when we go through, well, we need to actually see what we're looking at. So let's get that. Who knew jellyfish could be so dramatic? Not
Imagine
me.
seeing that on the big screen.
Electrifying, like electrifying, stinging. So there you have it. Audio ducking is such a great feature. It's incredibly quick and easy. So yeah, I think is that kind of if you've got any questions about Essential Sound, hit me up.
Yeah, definitely. I think that was very, very powerful. It's something that, we've seen a lot of with some of our customers in terms of, how do we do things a lot faster? We want to get to the finish line quicker. What are some of these things that will help us get there? And sometimes when people use Premiere, they're not really sure on how to do these little tips and tricks. So something like that is definitely a time saver, which is fantastic.
You've reminded me of the next little thing that I want to show you, which is a little tip and trick, which I've found incredibly valuable in my own editing. Is I'm calling it multicam trick, but it's a combination of the two things that we've just covered: multi-cameras and audio or music tracks. So
before you show that, we've actually got a question. Sorry to cut you off, Ian.
No, go for it.
Do you have to worry about copyright with music? How do you make sure you and your client are covered in that sense?
That's a great question. When you're using Adobe stock, I haven't looked at the terms and conditions, but if it's in that instance, then you would need to kind of just make sure that it fits what your purpose is. But stock music has been designed for a purpose, which is that it will be distributed and shared. And so usually people license stock, that there's an understanding that you're going to put it on YouTube or what have you. There can be a difference between distributing it online, something like YouTube or Vimeo, and a television commercial. And so you could use, you might download stock music and think, this is great, it's stock music, and then put it in a television ad, and then get a letter from somebody saying like, well, you weren't covered for that usage. So you need to make sure that whatever you're using it for, and it gets, as you kind of, the larger the budget and the larger the potential audience, the more kind of finely grained the details are. And so, on a recent job, I had to tell the people, exactly where it was, what territory it was going to be shown in. In this instance, it was Australia, exactly how long it was going to be, and all of the channels that it was going to be seen on. So whether that's, social media, Instagram and Facebook and so on, television in a cinema or a corporate environment, board meetings or conferences, all that kind of stuff. Often people have simplified it to make it as really easy as possible because they want people to use their music or footage or imagery and so on. But it's always a good idea to make sure that you are covered for whatever usage you're going to use it for, so that you don't get lawyers breathing down your neck.
Yeah, absolutely. I think with Adobe Stock, they've gone in with affiliations with some stock music companies. I think one of them is Epidemic Sound, and their library is just incredible, extensive, so many different forms and genres and moods. As you saw, angry, some really great audio in Adobe Stock itself.
Yeah, sound effects as well, right? Like you've got a whole bunch of
sound effects,
all sorts of things in there. So yeah, to come back to the multi-camera trick. So if we had a client, and the client is, it could be Fortune 500 client, could be your mum, who knows? But if you've got a client and you want to trial different kinds of music for the trailer, this little trick is going to make that really easy, and I've used it a number of times. So I'm just going to make a brand new sequence, and we'll call that, we'll just call it music options. So in here, completely empty, I'm going to go back to the Essential Sound into the Browse tab. Now let's say angry wasn't the mood we were going for. I kind of like dreamy, that sounds pretty good. Limitless, sad, okay, maybe not vapor. So
there you go.
Okay, that's great, bit trip hoppy. We'll drag that in there on one. And now what about dynamic? Corporate uplifting. That was one that we sort of wanted to try out before. It's going to turn off timeline sync so that I can preview it without having to hear the timeline.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. Okay.
Otherwise it'd be mixing it, right?
It would be playing them both. Yeah, exactly. So we don't want that.
So what you're doing here is you're putting a number of audio pieces of music on here. I'm curious to see what you're about to do.
Well, stay tuned, Chris, because this is going to absolutely blow your mind. So it was basically, I'm going to drag all of those automatically, downloaded them and chuck them on the timeline. So this is the one that we call music options, and now I'll go back into Essential Sound Demo, and I'm just going to delete the one that we had in there, and then I'm going to bring music options that we just created and drag that in here. Now what I don't want is I don't want the video component, so I'm just going to turn off source patching for video. I will just have A1 turned on here.
And why do you do that? Why are you doing that?
So right now, if I've got V1 turned on, then when I drag that, 1 second, I'll just get back to where we were.
Oh, I see.
So if I drag music options on there, you can see that it's bringing in the video and the audio on the track that we just created. Even though there's no video in it, it doesn't know that we're not interested in that. So it's just obliterated all of the vision on my timeline. So I'm going to hit undo. I'll turn off V1 just by tapping that, clicking on that. And now when I drag it,
we got 5 minutes to go.
Okay, cool. So just drag that in there, and now it's come in. If I play that back, it's going to be an awful sort of medley of everything. Oh, that's horrible.
Sounds interesting.
Yeah, interesting. So what I want to do is right click on it and turn on multi-camera. So now it's only going to play. That's playing track 1. If I select that and press 2 on my keyboard, now it's the track 2. And I can switch that in real time. And the nice thing about this is once I go into my Essential Sound panel and label that as music, I can use ducking on it, generate the keyframes, and now I can change the audio.
And I also have this camera over here.
Respects the ducking.
It'll be my best.
No matter which track is in it.
Because
So multi-camera doesn't just work with video, it works with audio as well.
Yeah, multi-camera is kind of, you could put any asset that Premiere uses. And so you could even have different overlays for, and I've used it for using different languages. So I've had videos where they've had like Japanese, Chinese subtitles and English. And so I can just switch between them. You can make edits and then switch it, render it all out as the various kind of things. And so there's a huge time saver. So if you're willing to get a little bit creative, then multi-camera there's a whole wealth of ways that you can use it, that you can put it to good use.
Yeah, that's a great tip. You definitely did blow my mind, because I've never seen that before. I've never seen multicam used that way. And it's a really cool way of, perhaps showcasing this to a client or a customer and saying, hey, well, what about this type of music? Does it fit with this video? And then so forth. You can just switch between them, and then that way you can choose which one you need.
It's usually, it's only someone who knows Premiere a little bit who realizes that that's a cool trick, because, I show clients and their minds are definitely not blown. They're just like, yeah, cool. I've seen
cool. I want that one. I want that one.
Yeah. I want corporate uplifting. So, and that's just fine. They are corporate. So, but basically that was kind of that multi-camera trick, which I just think is a really, really fun way of using it, that perhaps, it wasn't originally intended for, but, it gives you so many different options. So I think how much longer do we have, Chris?
I think we've got just under a couple of minutes to go. Let me just clarify here 1 second. We've got about 3 minutes or so. Do you reckon we got time for a quick transcription? Yeah.
So this was a new feature in the latest version of Premiere, which is also, I find, a bit mind-blowing. And so if you've got, in this instance, this is one I've set up. Here's one I prepared earlier, which is effectively, I've just dropped in, there's no music or anything. I've just dropped in a segment of myself, and with nothing selected in there, I went up to the sequence menu and I went down to auto transcribe sequence. And this ran through all of the audio, and obviously I was speaking English at the time, but you can get it to do other languages, I believe. It's made a couple of little errors, but that's perfectly understandable, because you're using,
which you can
it's like
edit, right?
Machine, it's like artificial intelligence, really.
Yeah.
But it did an incredibly good job. Like, I was kind of blown away with how
so
accurate it was.
You didn't type this in. This is Premiere, basically.
That is just, so it takes your audio, it sends it to Adobe's artificial intelligence cloud service, and comes back with the text. And one of the miraculous things about this is when I click on a word or a phrase here, it automatically jumps the playhead in the timeline. Yeah, so if you've got a lot of, like, an hour-long interview, you can just scan through, look for particular words, and so I can type in a word in here, and it'll jump between them, and awesome. You can just jump the play. So it's a massive time saver. And then I automatically.
This is new in Premiere. I think it came out in one of the previous updates this year. Yeah, yep. I think it's this version. Yeah. It's really cool.
It was like it's going to be a real game changer, and I got it to automatically generate these the captions up here as well. So if I delete this track, which is my caption track, you can see I've got create new caption track. Click on that. I've already set up a style down here, which is my corporate style, and then hit OK. And
we've got 1 minute to go, just letting you know.
Yep, no worries. Well, it didn't work that time, because obviously I've done something wrong, but effectively, in a nutshell, the transcription feature is amazing. And if you've got the latest version, I urge you to say something into your computer and give it a go, because it's incredible.
Say something into your computer, definitely. No, that's fantastic. Ian, thank you so much for your time over the last couple of days that we've done. Your breadth of knowledge is incredible. What you've shown us is fantastic. There's definitely, There's definitely some tips in there that I'm going to use and show our customers as well, which is fantastic. Ian, anything else you wanted to say? I think we were looking at some other areas that perhaps we might do a future session on.
Yeah, I would love to show people some text animators. We ran out of time for that one, but that's a really fascinating subject. That's After Effects one. I'd also invite people to come and check out my YouTube channel because I've got a few more tutorials and bits and pieces up there, and I'm cool. Aiming to add more content as well. So I think there's a link to that in the chat perhaps. But yeah, thanks for the opportunity. It's always good to come and have a chat with Adobe about this stuff.
Awesome. Thanks everyone. Hope you're well. See you later. Bye-bye.